Every now and then I do an interview on somebody else's podcast, and it's just so interesting that I say, hey, well, I want to show this to all my people. I want you guys to always have the best of what's happening right now. And we're talking here about new data that's coming in on the conspiracies surrounding the Trump assassination attempt. And the grassroots is showing up. I mean, we're in an extraordinary age of technology, and people are now checking the cell phones and the traffic of what existed between the FBI headquarters and the location of the shooter's house and communication. This is some breaking wild information with Katie Souza on this interview, and I want to give that to you. And the stress of this moment is something which concerns me because I don't think it's going to lighten up. I had a comment from Chuck Pierce recently and said, hey, strap yourself in. It's going to be like this all the way through till September. So I know you got Harris, Kamala Harris, and Biden stepping out and Harris stepping in. Who's the VP pick going to be? It's whoa. What's it going to be like if you're going to continue to have the kind of disrupted stress and strain? And then as my particular group of like a lot of folks that are over 50 are seeing that they're having battles in their body and all kinds of different areas of deterioration. And that's the reason why we did our research on technology and approaches to health that are absolutely revolutionary. That's why I'm always talking about the level 10 matrix. Rather than medicating, rather than operating, rather than despairing, I believe that you can actually regenerate and restore youth. And believe it or not, you can actually see a recovery of vital functions in your body. Go to this level10matrix.com and take a look at it. By the way, if you're in the Facebook group or your Instagram, just write the comment Matrix, kind of like Neo in the Matrix. And I'm going to make sure I get this information to you. You can call 1-800-361-2270. Find out about the revolutionary health innovations that are taking place that is transforming lives week after week. I'm hearing the testimonies. Level10matrix.com. You don't want to miss it. Take action now. All right, let's get into this interview with Katie Souza.
Everybody, welcome to this emergency meeting for the United States of America. I'm sure you can understand why we're holding this special council today, because of the events that have been unfolding in the last weeks and the attempted assassination of Donald J. Trump and the preceding bevy, overflow, deluge of political activities and movements on the chessboard that have been taking place that we need to be aware of so that we can pray into this to see America become great again. Now, we're going to just start the day's episode with footage that everyone has already seen, but it is good to remind us of God's hand in saving Donald Trump.
Told, and if you want to really see something that said, take a look at what happened.
Moving his hair. Hold. When you're ready. On you.
Ready?
Move. Move.
Go. Hawkeye's here.
Hawkeye's here. Moving his hair.
Get ready. Get ready.
You ready? Are we good? Shooter's down. Are we good to move?
Good to move. We're
Let's
clear.
move. Let's move.
We're clear.
Come on.
Let me get my shoes.
Got you, sir. I got you, sir.
Let me get my shoes, sir.
Hold that in your head. It's bloody.
So we got to move to the bus. Let me get my shoes.
Okay, my shoes down. My shoes.
Watch out.
Wait.
Fight after being shot in the ear, a narrow miss averted by, I believe, and so do hundreds of thousands, even millions of other people. God intervened. To join us on today's emergency broadcast is none other than Lance Wallnau to speak into this miraculous event that turned the hand of the enemy against himself and for us by saving President Donald Trump. Welcome to the broadcast, Lance Wallnau. Thanks for joining, friend. Thank you so much. So much going on today. Can we unmute his audio on their end? Yeah. Yep.
Are we unmuted?
Yeah, there we go. Okay.
There we go.
Thank you so much. Wow, what an event.
No, it really is. And you know, this morning I woke up and for some reason I just, I went to, I don't know why, my finger just went by my sideburn. Anyone can do this right now. Take your index finger, lay it to your head. That's the size of the bullet that whisked by his head and went to his ear. That's all it takes. That's just literally the length. It's the width of a finger. That's what separated Trump from life or having the back part of his skull shattered off.
At the RNC convention, when he spoke, Lance, he said, I shouldn't be here. The only reason why I am is because of God himself.
Yeah, and he literally said, when I was down on the ground, he said, it's hard to explain, but I had this sense of that God was there. In other words, he collapsed on the ground. In that moment where you see the iconic picture of the blood going across his head and his hands on the ground, he said, I sense God. That sensing of God was there. And that's why he had this unusual expression until he got back in warrior mode, put the mantle back on and got back into campaign mode. For the first couple of days, I was wondering how much has this affected his personality? Because he had this strange kind of serene look, not a man who is like you're seeing all the congressional, folks up there on the Hill grilling the Secret Service, not somebody trying to get the facts about what happened, but someone serenely detached, as though he was in the hands of Providence and that God was in control of something, and he knew his life was spared. And then now he's back in campaign mode. But I watched that, and everyone else did. They said, man, something's happened to him.
Yeah, we'll play Brandon Biggs' prophecy later about the bullet flying by the ear, which has a lot of accuracy in it. But he said that Trump would have a encounter with God while he was on his knees. I think you just described that encounter.
I do believe it's true. I think that's the encounter. And the other parties said that people are critical of. I can't believe it. It's so hilarious. Are the prophetic critics, especially in the charismatic world. Hey, he also said he was going to be deaf in his ear. And so they're going to try to find, he missed it on that little detail, didn't he? But the truth is, Trump said at the RNC he is due for a hearing test yet to see the impact of the bullet on his ability to hear, to see if it's affected his eardrum. So, I mean, it could be that even that's going to be confirmed.
Yeah, and the thing is, too, guys, is we prophesy in part, we see in part. And Brandon Briggs himself came on and said, I might have misconstrued the blood I saw running down his face, which actually happened, to be the rupturing of his eardrum. So time will tell when the hearing test comes back. But either way, he was so humble to state that, say, I might have interpreted that part wrong. But man, he got the bullet flying by the ear right.
Come on, man. What's the odds of that? I traveled with Kim Clement for 7 years. We were buds, and I remember him. He was always interested in William Branham because Kim was the closest to William Branham that we had, an actual prophet that got actual words of knowledge without searching the internet to get them. So. And he said that one of the words which was instructed to him was William Branham. He said, because he says, I see things. He says, when I see them, he said, the challenge is interpreting what you see. William Branham was in South Africa, and he had a vision of a car that was red with a young man who was lying on the ground and was dead, and he was to go up and command life into him. And he comes up upon an accident. And there's the car, and there's the young man, but the car isn't red. And Gordon Lindsay says to him, but, Brother Branham, this is what the vision is. He goes, no, wait. He goes, Brother Branham, this was your vision you described. He goes, no, wait, something isn't right. And he waited at what seemed like an eternity. and the sun began to come down. And as the sun came down, the sun reflected off of a pool of water next to the car, and the reflection made it red. And at that moment, he said, now. And he went up and raised the guy from the dead.
Wow.
The timing had to be exact in order for the vision to line up.
Wow.
So that just gives you a sense of sobriety regarding a realm very few of us get into.
I'm excited to announce my all-new mattress topper. In the times we're in, I wanted to bring you the best affordable mattress topper ever. So I took my two best technologies and combined them to make the ultimate mattress topper. And now you can get it for as low as $69.98. Queen size, only $99.98. It all starts with my famous MyPillow foam that provides you that overall full body support. Second is the individual comfort supports that give you an amazing custom sleep experience. It's like it's made specifically for you. The queen size alone has over 14,000 comfort supports. This is the perfect mattress topper to improve any bed. New bed, old bed, your guest beds. Get them for every bedroom in your house. Go to mypillow.com or call the number on your screen. Use your promo code to get the all-new My Mattress Topper for as low as $69.98. Queen size, only $99.98. Don't delay, order today.
Go to mypillow.com and use promo code Lance to save big on all of Mike's best products. That's promo code Lance.
You know, when we see this and what's been taking place, it's shocking to think, how could this happen? So that's why another reason why I brought you on the broadcast today is because we want to look at that. I mean, Josh Hawley wrote a letter to Alejandro Mayorkas, who is the head of the Department of Homeland Security, and he was contacted by a whistleblower, and the whistleblower had direct knowledge of the event. And in this letter, I'm holding it in my hand right now, it says that this was considered a loose security event, meaning there was no detection. The detection canines were not used to monitor every entry or to detect threats in the usual manner. Individuals without proper designations were given access to backstage areas. Department personnel did not appropriately police the security buffer around the podium and were not stationed at regular intervals around the event's security perimeter. We wonder how a lone gunman can get away with something like this. Well, that sounds like, is that conspiratorial? Is that collusion? Was that allowed to happen so that the lone gunman could do his work?
Yeah, so what you're hearing there is, and then you could add to that, Trump's detail requested more Secret Service protection. They were denied that. First, they lied about it. Mayorkas lied and said that isn't true. Then he said, well, okay, it is true. Secondly, you're not looking at the first string team there. I'm sorry to say, you got some of those women there, you know, that can't holster the gun back and forth. You know, they're kind of confused. So what you're looking at is Department of Homeland Security fielded agents, because a number of the agents were diverted, evidently, to a Jill Biden event. And all of this kind of makes you stop and say, and that goes before the disastrous hearing on the Hill with the director of the Secret Service, who resigns today because she's asked questions like, have you been to the site yet to go to preview it? Now, it took her 9 days. 9 days later, she still hasn't been to the site. 3 days later, she talked to the Secret Service. They have no recordings of what was going on because we need the recording. She had no timeline that was specific and could answer no questions. So justifiably, America and our tribe, when I say our tribe, I mean the people that pray for Trump and know that America is in a spiritual battle, we are beginning to become conspiratorial, hair on fire, because we're saying it looks like they not only relax this thing so an opportunity could create itself, which is clear, but that evidently our own government is in on trying to kill Trump, which is full tilt Alex Jones. So somewhere between those two, most of my audience exists.
Well, I mean, it's too blatant not to consider even the most extreme, quote, conspiracy theories when you see these basic. I mean, I'm not a Secret Service person, but I would know that you need to have a constant policing of the perimeter. I would need to know that only certain people could be allowed backstage. I would know that there had to be dogs sniffing for weapons and bombs and things like that. It's a given. So I don't know. Did we have our programming back up? So show the picture of the woman hiding behind Trump. Now, I am not dissing this woman, guys. I am a tough chick too. Okay, so I'm not saying chicks can't be on the security teams. I can't say that, but obviously this woman was not qualified to be there. She's using Trump and the other men of the Secret Service as body shields to protect herself. And then we have a video of the same woman. And again, I'm not going after this woman. They put her in this wrong situation. Look at go full screen, quick. She's trying to holster her weapon. We missed it. Roll back and do it again. There she is. She's trying to holster her weapon. She can't get it. She's looking scared. She's looking frightened. This is obviously not a trained security officer, Secret Service at all.
No. She was hired from Walmart security, and just kind of like to do the gig over there in Butler County. But you know what they call the Secret Service in other countries? They call them bullet catchers. Wow. They don't call them service. And that what you see there is not a bullet catcher. That's people that go out of their way, not to mention, and this is not, we shouldn't have to qualify. We're not against women. Obviously, I mean, my organization is run by women. The reality is that you don't take a woman who's half the size of the person you're a bullet catcher for, because when you're only half as tall as Donald Trump and you crouch, you're like a hobbit now. You're not even helping anybody. So I would say that this is a major aha moment. But the real question is, nobody was on the sloped roof 150, 200 yards away, 300 yards away. I mean, nobody can quite get the yardage down. Every time we quote 200 yards, they move it to 400 yards. So I'm going to find out what the facts are. But it was a sloped roof, the stupidest line that I heard, which this is when you start going, when you're really incompetent, it sounds like a conspiracy. Why didn't you put any agents on the roof? Well, it was dangerous because with a sloped roof, our guys could fall off. I mean, that's not what you want to hear the Navy SEALs tell you. Well, I don't want to go out at night. I mean, you can't see anything. Let's go do this during the day. So the other part that's weird is the snipers that took out the shooter were on a sloped roof. What's up with that? You're on a sloped roof shooting the guy that got on the sloped roof that you were afraid to get on. Something isn't lining up here.
Okay, we do have a couple different footages. Let's throw up the phone footage about the sniper, the U.S. sniper. And I want you to kind of speak into this because you can not only see that he's on a sloped roof, but you can see that he is sighting. There it is. Let's go full screen. And then he looks up from sighting like he's trying to look and see there he goes. What am I really looking at? What's going on here? They're saying, why did this guy take a shot? He knew about the shooter well before Crooks actually started firing at the president. What's going on here?
Well, now this is, all right, so here's the point. When you don't have a candid conversation, how America really longs for an FBI director to go, hey, wasn't that stupid? I can't believe, what's the guy looking up for? I mean, you need a director that's going, I'm gonna jerk the slack out of this right away. I can't believe the incompetence. Our training's gonna go to the next level. You better believe me. At least Americans would go, well, thank God we're getting somebody owning the fact, instead of saying this is an ongoing investigation or something stupid like that. The reality is the sniper, according to professional snipers, said that when the guy started shooting, because it was an inexperienced guy on the roof, he looked up in shock to see what was going on. Now, here's the theory. They're so worried about, this is what happened with the reimagining policing. They're so worried that this could be a guy on the roof, maybe with a telegraphic lens, who's trying to take pictures. They're worried that it might be someone that the police that need to verify. Maybe he's with somebody who shouldn't be on the roof, but he's trying to do photographs. They have to identify that it's a rifle. They have to talk between interdepartments, which is why we want to hear the audio. But they have no audio, they say. So you don't know if the police are, but remember this. Let me just say this, Katie, one thing real quick. The providence of God was not just in Trump moving his head 0.03 seconds in the direction of a large chart that he wanted to read at that exact moment when the bullet was heading to his head. The providence of God was that some Barney Fife moment happens where you've got a gun on the roof and the police down there, get on my shoulders, Charlie. And they get the other guy to climb up on the roof. He puts his head over the side, and the shooter turns around with a rifle facing at him. He goes, "Oh!" He goes back down under the roof. Instead of coming back up with a gun and taking a shot at him, he drops down and says, "There's a guy with a rifle on the roof." That's our police department.
Okay, well, this is crazy. And I know, too, that, Jack Pacific was, I hope I said that right, was on Tucker last night. And he said that according to local law enforcement, they showed up to the morning briefing and Secret Service wasn't even there. And then the local law enforcement guys got siloed, which means that they were not informed about what frequency the walkie-talkies were all going to be on between them and the Secret Service. So any information that they had, because they saw the shooter well before he even climbed on the roof. They took a picture of him from the second story. They shot it on their phone. And I had that picture somewhere. And they knew it, but they couldn't relay that truth to the Secret Service, including telling the guy, the U.S. Secret Service sniper that was on that roof that we just saw, that, hey, that's not us, that's somebody else, shoot him, because they were given like an intermediary that they could contact to relay messages. And supposedly, according to them, their contact that was supposed to relay the messages to the Secret Service, because they were never given the right frequency to be on with the Secret Service, said, "Yes, I have delayed the information." So who arranged that to happen, for them to be siloed like that?
And to your point, they're not only siloed, but the dumb Secret Service, which is responsible at the end of the day for the protection of the candidate, they decided arbitrarily that they were going to be taking 100% responsibility for everything in the perimeter of 150 yards. But outside of that, you could bring a howitzer or a Sherman tank. That's the Butler Police Department's job. They should actually be looking at everything with it. If an AR-15 can fire 400 yards, if that's the range, they need a 400-yard perimeter that they're responsible for. And I missed the point. I got carried away with this dumb police thing where the guy goes up on the roof. Now, here's the point. This is God. He goes up and startles the shooter. The shooter has a rangefinder. The shooter has sophisticated technology and a scope capacity. The shooter shoots because he realizes, I've been found out. A uniformed policeman just saw me. I better take Trump out now. So he starts boom, 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 boom. He starts shooting prematurely. He didn't get the opportunity, because you listen to the sharpshooters and the guys in basic military. They go, this is an easy shot from the distance he's at. This is basic training. Why didn't he hit the target on the second or third shot, moving around? Because he had to shoot fast. Now, the question I've got, the moment the policeman drops down to the ground, what he should have done was not go back up and try to take out the shooter. He should have unholstered his pistol and started firing in the air.
Yeah.
Boom, boom, boom. Boom, boom, boom. Because the moment you hear gunfire going off, it's the alarm to get the president covered right now. He should have been firing fast just to say, we've got a live situation right now.
Lance, so good. Because as soon as gunfire went off, the president would have ducked down. Secret Service would have huddled around him. That's exactly right. Thank God for God. to overcome all of our failures. You know, we're about to roll this video that I have of a sniper on the actual rooftop. He's reporting on the Benny Johnson show. But I just want to say this one little irritating little thing I heard at the Cheetos congressional hearing yesterday that she was subpoenaed to, the head of the Secret Service, when they asked why wasn't that building underneath the perimeter, like you just said, if an AR shoots 400 yards, or then that's how much the perimeter should be. They said, well, that building is well within that. It's like 150 or whatever it is, 170 yards. Why wasn't it in the perimeter? And she goes, well, that's the perimeter we set. That was such an irritating question. It's like, you're setting a perimeter, but yet the weapon of choice is going to be able to shoot much farther than that perimeter. And what was the AG building, like what, 50 more feet or something ridiculous like that?
Right.
Yeah.
Right. So,
yeah.
I mean, it's, saying that plus the sloped roof was too dangerous for OSHA requirements. We can't put government people on a roof that's sloped. It's too dangerous.
Yeah.
I mean, there's reasons why. Now, here's the big concern. I know our people think it's all conspiracy. It's all set up. I understand why. But the problem with diversity, equity, and inclusion, I want everyone in the audience to listen to this. It just takes a while before planes crash, Secret Service are fumbling their job, and medical procedures go sideways, and power grids go down.
Yeah.
You're gonna, I want you to get a picture of a limb of a tree cut off. It's still green. It's green for days. It's green for weeks. Oh, it's turning into autumn. Oh, it's now beautiful. And what's happened is our government has a policy of diversity hiring, and the moment you do that, you're not bringing in your brightest and your best. You're bringing in a quota. And when you do that, you start to compromise your competency. Now America's discovering, hey, wait a second. Well, wait till the planes start crashing. That'll be the next one. Wait till procedures go wrong in hospitals. This is a dumb policy. And you're looking at the natural outgrowth of it with the Secret Service, which is why I'm saying they're incompetent, because government has set it up to be incompetent. You don't have to be conspiratorial if you're incompetent.
That should be a bumper sticker. Okay, let's roll into this vid from the Benny Johnson show about a sniper up on top of the very rooftop where Crooks was at when he shot President Donald Trump.
Now, where's this video coming from? This video is coming from a member of Congress. His name's Eli Crane. Eli Crane is somebody you should really listen to. He's a former Navy SEAL. He's also a sniper. He's a member of Congress. And he's in Butler, Pennsylvania, where the shots were fired to assassinate President Trump. As a former Navy SEAL sniper, it's clear to me that many security measures made Donald Trump extremely vulnerable. Many questions still remain. Have a listen to this former Navy SEAL. It's very important to who you're listening to these days.
Here on the building where the supposed sniper took his shot. It's not that steep at all. We just had a 70-year-old man back here climb up on the roof easily. See that water tower behind me? Had Secret Service or anybody had sniper teams up there, this guy wouldn't have made it 5 feet up this roof. He would have been taken out. Behind me, you see the windows that Secret Service was supposedly in the second floor of this building behind. Makes you wonder why they weren't able to quickly dispatch the individual. And then behind me, back over here where those red roofs are, that's where the stage was set up. That's where the president was giving his speech from. A lot of questions here in Butler, but we look forward to doing oversight and getting to the bottom of it and making sure it never happens again.
Wow. Okay. Wow. Like, why wasn't Secret Service on top of the water tower, which is the highest point? That's where I would go. And I mean, I used to hunt people. I would find the highest vantage point to find out what was going on before I went in to collect from people. And you were talking about this before the broadcast. There's that building you were talking about that is in back of the AG building, higher than it, with a window that Secret Service was inside. But they don't see crooks?
No, well, the Secret Service was not at their station. So you see that as this unfolds, I mean, our people are going to be living. Here's the good news. Before we get all hair on fire, I have to say, okay, first, God did a miracle to save Trump's life. So let's remember God for God.
Yeah.
Secondly, the providence of God was all over this. The policeman, Barney Fife, goes up, interrupts the shooter, drops back down, says, hey, there's a shooter on the roof. And the shooter gets flustered and has to shoot earlier. So they're not use their technology. Those are two breakthroughs.
Yeah.
Secondly, or thirdly, let's just be generous for a second and say, this is just really lousy and incompetent policing going on, so that you've got guys weren't at the window looking through because they're at Butler County and they're, they could care less about a Trump speech and they're talking to each other. They're not even in the room. They're doing a patrol. They're walking around outside and going back up. Whatever. The reality of the matter is God was in the details that saved us from an assassination. Now, here's the good news, Katie. You better believe that the Secret Service, if it was a conspiracy, as my tribe thinks, if it was, where's the second shooter, Lance? If that's what we're talking about, they're under such scrutiny right now. Even Ocasio and others who normally would be on the opposite side of the aisle, they're protected by the same Secret Service. They're looking at this going, dang, we better get the gang that can't shoot straight sorted out because they're protecting our butt from the right-wing extremists. So they're all motivated to fix it. That's good news. The Secret Service is not going to be an easy way for the enemy to open up a door to assassinate Trump. You could bet on that.
Okay, so things are coming out that will squeeze them even more. I mean, when you look at the obvious things like Crooks was running a drone before the event. That's not allowed. You're not allowed to run a drone because then you could be citing, you could be looking at the site to set up something like what happened. He had a van full of explosives. Who made those? Did he make those? Where did he make those? I thought he lived with his parents. They don't know. They were behavioral counselors. They didn't see any signs. I mean, he also had a rifle bag, a bicycle, which is not allowed in those Trump rallies, a duffel bag, which is not a backpack, which is not allowed at Trump rallies. He had all of this stuff. Who helped him? Well, Benny Johnson, I just love this guy. He's really amazing. He found a report. Let's go to that, guys, because that is incredible. He found a report from a group that's an oversight committee that traced and pinged the phones that were connected to Thomas Crooks, the would-be assassin, not would-be at all. And it showed that 9 devices had been around his house and his work, that had also been in Washington, D.C., a block or two away from the FBI, and were at the armory where Crooks bought the ammo that was intended to kill President Trump, and also on the site just the day before the actual event on July 13th, and then those phones were turned off. Let's just roll this clip. Do we have that ready? Go, roll it.
The government wants you to think that he's just acting alone, the lone assassin. Political motivation. Well, if that's the case, then somebody's going to have to answer some really tough questions, like why were there people who work right next to the FBI visiting Thomas Crooks's home a dozen times over the last year? So, can somebody please explain that? If that seems shocking to you, let me introduce you to the Oversight Project here of the Heritage Foundation. Assassination Info Drop. We found the assassin's connections through our in-depth analysis of mobile ad data and tracked the movement of Crooks and his associates. To do this, we tracked devices that regularly visited both Crooks's home and his place of work and followed them. Oh my. What did we find out? We found out that Thomas Crooks was regularly visited at his work and also at his home, a building in Washington, D.C., located in Gallery Place. This is the same vicinity as the FBI. Whose device is this? Somebody who visited Crooks's home and work was also in D.C., right here, in a place called Gallery Place. Now, if you're unfamiliar with Washington, D.C., let me show you. This is Gallery Place, Chinatown. This is the metro stop right here. Green, red, and yellow line. Here's Capital One Arena, where sports teams play, like the hockey team, right? Here's the National Portrait Gallery. This is a Smithsonian. And right here is the FBI. Well, this is strange. That's just like probably a 2-minute walk from right there
to right there. Easily doing for a meetup. You know, again, Lance, they said that some of these same devices were pinged at what is it called? Allegheny Arms, where the rounds were purchased that were used to shoot President Trump. And also at the site and near the site the day before, and then turned off. Two devices were then turned off that day. How are you feeling about that conspiracy theory thing with he was not just a, quote, lone shooter?
Yeah, well, listen, man, that's the most important leak and lead that we've got. And that has to be followed up on, because if you're in Butler County, you don't need to go to the suburbs of Washington to buy ammo. You can literally go within 30 minutes of there to get your ammo. So if these accounts were visiting him and went back, or if are they saying that that they were traced from his house down to there, or
no? They're saying that these phones came to his house, Crooks' house, or his work. And they were also pinged in the plaza about a 2-minute walk away from the Federal Bureau of Investigation. So it wasn't Crooks' phones being traced from his house and to his activities. It was phones that came to his house and his work. Those same phones were also pinged at Allegheny Arms, where the ammo was purchased, and at that location just minutes away from the FBI.
So either he was being groomed by the FBI to do something, or by some agents that were encouraging him and inspiring him to do his patriotic duty and take out Trump, or let's keep our eye out for this story that might creep up. The parents were concerned about him because of comments that he had made, and the FBI was aware that he was a potential youth. When it wasn't Trump they were worried about, it was a shooting incident in his school. And so they were kind of like monitoring a little bit and checking out what was going on because of the fear that he might be unstable in the school, but they dismissed it. I mean, this is how these stories get retrofitted to cover the trail. I'm just preparing for how they're going to say, well, no, it wasn't related to Trump. It was related to something else.
Well, because he was bullied. So that actually could be a way that they would retrofit. I love that language, Lance. Retrofit that scenario. He was bullied at school. We were afraid that he might do something at school.
Yeah, and exactly. Which is why. But this might explain why. This story was out, and then it got memory hold. Remember, the parents had notified the police that their son was missing for 3 hours, or they didn't know where he was. Now, that's a weird story, and then it got lost. And, my problem is I don't know whether it's being generated by a legitimate source or not, but it looked accurate at the time, which means that the parents were aware that they were concerned about him possibly being unstable at the school, and now he's missing. Hey, and here's the story that the FBI isn't getting out there. The father said, I don't have my rifle in the rifle case. I'm worried about where my son is right now. That could have been up there. Now, the FBI had that information. They got so much mud on their face now for not saying, well, we already have him on record as possibly a shooter with the school. The dad says he's missing. Trump is in the vicinity. We should be on the lookout for him. Blah, blah, blah. It's just going to make him look a lot worse. But by the way, I want to point this out. Forget the bicycle. How did he get a rifle to the location? Because he didn't come through the gate with a rifle. The rifle had to be planted there before he got there. Why was the policeman hoisted up on the shoulders of a colleague when the kid used a ladder? Where was the ladder, and when was the ladder placed there? Was it placed by someone else to accommodate him? Did someone else plant the rifle? Or the problem is it's his father's AR-15. That's the only problem I've got. But somehow he got the rifle there and he planted it so that it was hours before the event. How did he do that?
Yeah.
Because he came through without a rifle, but then he climbs up and somebody has it. Who planted the rifle?
Yeah, and who bought the ladder? You're right, because Jack Pacific on Tucker's broadcast last night said that they have footage of him at the local Home Depot purchasing the ladder that morning. But then the ladder is never seen again. Who got it there and who took it away? It's never seen again.
And who hid the rifle?
Right.
And who bought the drone and the rangefinder?
Yeah.
And those 3 encrypted accounts. I want to know. They have some kind of cyber encrypted accounts, 3 accounts. Nobody's talking about that. I was surprised on the Hill they didn't discuss. Were these more than one phone that he had and encrypted and communicating where? To Europe, or where was the encryption? Iran? And by the way, just want to throw this out there. The week that this happened, do you know what all the stories were that were coming out? You got to go back and see the news cycle. They were saying that there's a heightened need for security because Iran has terrorists potentially in the United States that might want to take out Trump in revenge for Soleimani. In other words, they were setting up the plausibility scenario that Trump might be taken out, not by us, but by Iran.
Man, this pit knows no end. I guess when they searched this kid's history of his searching on the internet, because he has no footprint, he has nothing on the internet. They found one search, and he searched I forget the other kid's name, that was a shooter at a school, and the parents were prosecuted and convicted because he used their weapon to do the mass shooting. And I guess Crooks did Google that story, I think probably in an effort to see if his father was going to take any conviction by him using his father's AR. So,
well, at least he's a considerate assassin, and that's important. You have to have some manners.
Yeah, right.
But what, the other thing that's interesting is we got to check this story out, and that is that he clocked over 100 hours on a GameStop on a game, which is Secret Service and the president, and you have shooters that try to shoot in the Secret Service. You have guys playing Secret Service intercepting the shooter, the bullet, and then you have. But it's a sick game, and I was looking on the data on it, and it had his name showing up as one of the guys that was playing the game.
Oh my gosh!
100 hours. So right away, here's a tip for you, Mr. FBI out there. You ought to go to those game sites and check out all the kids that are putting in 50 to 100 hours of fantasizing on shooting politicians. And check out if their parents have guns and if they have a history of psychological disorder, and put them on your radar so that you're checking on them during these events.
Yeah, both parents are behavioral counselors. Why didn't they notice that their son was locked up in his room for all those hours watching some crazed, video game thing that is adding to his plot? Look, I can feel people screaming right now. Why aren't you talking about the second shooter? We could talk about the second. We could talk about the second shooter, but I'm telling you, I'm just saying, you're all going to get mad at me. Okay, go.
But I don't think you need a second shooter when you've got all this evidence, all this energy focused on this kid had within 150 to 200 yards. It is an amateur shot could do it. You don't need to have a backup. All that they need to do is have somebody that'll take out the shooter so he can't leak, so that he can't tell a story of who he was talking to in Washington if he indeed is working with someone else. But I know that we've got the sound. You could play it now. I've watched the same thing. You got a guy like me who's not a professional, an audio guy with a studio and a podcast. Hey, play back that bullet. And here, bing, ping, ping, and here's the echo. Boom, boom, boom. He echoed, first the bullet, then the echo. And something isn't lining up here, Charlie. Well, the fact is, every bullet there's another video out. I've got it on my Twitter X account back from like 5 days ago. And I just said it. I know it makes my people mad, but I'm an honest podcaster. And I said, look, every bullet that was shot was in a straight line from one source. We know that because who got hit? We got people killed. We got people wounded. We got Trump. And you could zing, 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 zing. You could check the trajectory of every bullet. And it's coming from the roof, not coming from a water tower, not coming from a window, not coming from the grassy knoll, coming from one direction. And all those shots easily could have taken Trump out, but he got found out fast, and Trump moved miraculously. That's the only reason why Trump isn't dead.
And that's probably why the spray of the bullet hit so many, people on the sidelines, because he was caught. And he had only, he flipped around and started firing. So he had little time to.
I'm telling you, the providence of God was in both the interruption when it happened.
Yes.
And it was in the president turning his head. It
Yes.
took two angelic activities to throw the devil out of timing.
Okay.
And go look at it. I don't know what day it's on, but it's like 5 days ago. Go to the X account, Twitter account that I've got, and look at the video of the laser trajectory from the roof.
Yeah.
Of an engineered recreation, and it shows all of the victims. Now, if a bullet came from another angle, right, and shot someone, killed someone else, we'd have the second shooter story down. Two people firing at the same time should not have a clean line from the roof to the victim. It should be coming in from someplace else.
Okay.
And I don't see that data yet.
All right. Well, we'll look for that right now, and we'll roll as soon as we get it. But first, I want to just regress a little bit to what you said about, people like AOC. You would definitely think that, she would have an agenda connected to this, but because the Secret Service also protects people like her, we have a clip that shows her deep concern about this and her deep concern about the current nominee that Biden has put on the block there, Kamala Harris. Let's look at this clip from AOC.
And I'm going to say what a lot of these folks aren't saying. I'm just going to say it. If you think that there is consensus among the people who want Joe Biden to leave, that they will support Kamala, Vice President Harris, you would be mistaken. And I'm going to say that because if they're going to come out and say all their little things on background off the record, but they're not going to be fully honest, I'm going to be honest for them. I'm in these rooms. I see what they say in conversations. A lot of them are not just interested in removing the president. They are interested in removing the whole ticket.
Okay, yeah, she didn't say anything about the Secret Service, but that was actually pretty shocking there. Admitting that they want to... Go ahead.
That's huge news. I mean, we could go obsess on, every day we're going to have new data coming out on the shooter and all the stuff. I'm gonna check out that FBI pinging. That's a real interesting angle. Who's working with him? But listen, AOC just came out and said something which is wild. She said, all this coronation and this rush to put the crown on Kamala Harris, you got to know something. That's not what the majority of us really want. That's a cabal of elites. That's the Soros, Obama, Axelrod decision. There's a handful of these privileged elites in our own party who are making the decision for us. But if you heard what I hear with my own colleagues, and trust me, I'm in the big conversations, they don't like her. They think she's flawed, and they've got background information on her that is going to make her look even worse. And if they don't come out honestly with the background data, some of us are going to have to speak up and say, what about this? What about this? What about this? That's an interesting confession.
What is going on? It was, she only has a 37% favorability rating. Okay. How can they possibly think that she has a chance against Trump, who is, it's like Trump mania sweeping the nation because of his amazing policies that brought the United States back into greatness when he was in the president's office. How can this be? Is it because they don't have someone else? What is it?
I think it's because they have positional control over Kamala. I mean, when you hear what she says, she's a prosecutor who never had an original political or business idea in her head. Purely coming out of a legal profession and an opportunist within the political system. And you know, her sordid past will come out as to how she worked her way up the ladder in California in terms of influence. But what really is shocking is the fact that she has a history of saying the most incendiary Bernie Sanders AOC type policy things. She wants to reimagine police by defunding them. She wants to take ICE that goes after MS-13 and basically cut them out. She wants to decriminalize anybody who's coming through the border. She's the one that said during the riots that were taking place, where police precincts were burning down, and she was asked by the comedian Carville, what's his name? She was asked, well, when do you think this is going to stop happening? And she laughed and cackled away, and she said, never. This is never going to stop. Completely misreading the moment. It's like there was democracy on the move. She is more radical than Obama. And the problem is she's already stated it. However, there's such a hubris and such a kind of like aggression on the handlers on the left that they want her in. And what makes me concerned is if her unelectability doesn't stop them, then they think that she's going to stir up the race wars by playing the race card. She's going to stir up the gender wars by playing the woman against man. She's going to go back and tear open the wounds in America to say Trump is an angry white racist with a dangerous MAGA movement in order to this is what the devil's choice is, I guess is what I'm saying. It doesn't make sense unless they know how to rig the election and they think they can win it by rigging, and they can hemorrhage America's unity to their advantage.
That's my concern, Lance, is that, they couldn't sell the steel to do it a second time with Biden. If they're putting her in, she's even less favorable than he is. They must be confident in their ability to steal it again. Comments?
That's my concern. That's my concern. And then they have the best of both worlds. They have someone who will prepare the way for, and by the way, she's all for taking away your guns too. Yeah. She'll take away your right to self-protection. She'll read the script that Soros guys give her, because I've heard her. It's so annoying. She is like, I mean this. I'm a Christian, and so when I say this as a Christian. There are certain people who are manifesting a spirit talking through them. And I'm not having a problem with the person. I'm having a problem with the demon that is talking through them. And it's like nails on a chalkboard. She predictably says every incendiary, crazy thing that you don't want said in public discourse that'll stir up America to actually almost like the Civil War narrative we had months ago. This is the instrument that'll revive it.
God. Okay. Where is Biden? Nobody's seen him since the last footage, Lance, of him getting off the rear end of the plane because those stairs are less steep and he could barely crawl down them, and he was trying to act like, he would stop every couple of steps and act like he was signaling, hey, what's up to the reporters? But it was so weak. He looked so frail. And then when he got on the ground, he walked to the car, and there's a shot of the other side of the car through the window of the Secret Service man hoisting him into the seat because he could not get into the car. Now, he's been supposedly diagnosed with COVID. Where is he?
I guess with our audience, if I gave you multiple choice, A, he's dead. They took him out. We'll find out later. We have a bunch of people. A third of our audience will go, he's already dead. They took him out. B, they've drugged him, and they've infected him, and they basically manipulated him into signing off or threatened him, and he'll show up later. Or C, He's just old and infirm and fatigued with the sad realization that his dream of a second term ain't going to happen. And he's just recovering his sore ego and disappointment and waiting till Wednesday to deliver the scripted address that will be his official baton handoff. I suspect it's C, but I know most people think they've killed him or drugged him.
Well, I have to say that B is a possibility for me. And we have a clip, just a short clip of him actually saying with Kamala next to him, whatever her name, sorry, that he's going to develop a disease and then resign. So let's look at out of his own lips. Let's look at this clip.
If I reach something where there's a fundamental disagreement we have based on a moral principle, I'll develop some disease and say I have to resign. We don't have that.
Did you see her? When he said that, she's smiling, but she looks at him and goes like this. No, Joe, don't say that. That's the plan. We don't want them to know the plan, Joe. I'm sorry, but that's what I would do.
Yeah.
I'd be looking at somebody smiling and going, you fool, why did you do that?
Right, exactly. Yeah. Or the times like when he's reading, the teleprompter and it says, okay, end your sentence here. And he reads it out loud. It's like, well, but the real question is this. Here's the question. No, you can laugh. It's true. Here's the question. At what point do we say that this is not a condition? That I think I wrote this today, that the real outrage isn't that they've taken Biden off the ticket and decided to put Kamala in his place or someone else. The outrage is that he's had this mental deterioration for 4 years, and they knew it. And when it got exposed during the debate, they realized they have to replace him. If he's been in this condition for 4 years, why is nobody asking the obvious question? How can you trust a party that had a man who had dementia for like 3 or 4 years and lied to you and then shove it aside and shove him with it in order to put another candidate in? At some point, people should be outraged and say, where are the doctors? And where's Kamala, lying Kamala Harris, who said Joe is just as sharp and as attentive and as with it as he's ever been, and I've known him for many years. She lied, but that will never stop her nor hold her accountable. And you can play the clip where she's covering for him.
Yep.
Are we honestly going to believe that this wasn't his condition? But we're going to move on from there. I mean, as well as it's like the FBI report on the shooter. 30 days from now, we'll get a little bit more. Nothing.
Okay, so if Kamala's leading the ticket, who's VP? Is it Hillary? Where's Michelle Obama in all this? Why isn't she, on the ticket for president of the United States? What's going on? She's the most popular and most obvious choice that could even have a smear of a chance of defeating Trump.
So true. And so sometimes, the reality is that there could be a dream ticket that simply doesn't want to run. And what Axelrod has said all along, and I don't know that I disagree with David Axelrod. I think he might have been honest all along. Michelle likes the millionaire lifestyle. They love the world they've got. She knows what hell it is being in the Oval Office. I mean, guys that love politics, like Obama or like Clinton or like now Trump, they're in it and they eat it. They love it. They're in the battle. They're like career military guys. They just love the battle. The wives don't always like it. You think Melania really is happy? I think she'd be just as happy if Donald said to her, honey, I think I've done my duty for America. I'm going to step back. She'd be like, roll her eyes and go, oh, thank God. No, but I don't think Michelle wants it. And I know my friends are all predicting she's going to come out as the heroine and the savior of the party. If that was the case, Kamala would not be getting coronated right now. She's getting coronated because Obama would jerk the slack out of that and say, hey, we're going to go to the convention and ratify this. But right now, all the pedals to the metal because they're saying Michelle doesn't want it. So relax. I don't think Michelle's going to come out the reluctant hero. She's not coming out that way. I think Kamala's going to have to go with a guy. And you know what they want to do? I know they could go with a double ticket, like a Hillary VP. Hillary will never settle for VP. Gretchen Whitmer, 2 women. They could try to do the women and women thing, but I think that they know that that might be a risk. Their concern is, who do we set up against J.D. Vance? Okay. So be surprised if they don't have a weird, I mean, they're a weird party. I mean, look, they got drag queen hour going on. They got men in women's dresses in charge of nuclear programs. So they might call out Pete Buttigieg as their divine VP candidate.
Oh, gosh.
Because he's got a picture of him with a uniform. He looks good in a uniform. And he ticked off all the Ivy League boxes. And Mayor Pete has been transportation secretary, kind of like Kamala the border czar. Complete failure, but that won't stop anyone. At least they did it. And I think they might want to say Pete might be the right guy up against JD. And we're going to inflate and like wag the dog. We're going to inflate his resume as a military hero and scholar that can rival JD Vance in a debate. And then we're going to play the intolerant Christian card. And we're going to kind of like get all those homophobes, exposed. And the racists on Trump and the homophobe Christians with JD. I mean, that's how the devil works. So wouldn't that be... I said Gavin Newsom all along will be the VP pick. But Pete Buttigieg, now that J.D. Vance is in the scene, might be their counter.
Yeah, Newsom, the worst governor ever. Okay, I think that I totally buy the no last-minute surprise with Michelle Obama, because there's no way Obama himself would not interfere with the big coronation and announcements of Harris. So that landed with me. Okay, now just a couple more things. Brandon Briggs, the guy that prophesied the bullet going by the ear. After that, he also said that there would be an economic crash, that Trump would win second term, and then there would be an economic crash. Have you seen that video?
Of course. You kidding me? Because I'm one part economist, one part newscaster, and one part prophetic. So
okay.
Yeah, that first quarter thing, that's not just a prophecy. That looks to me like an economic inevitability, because the way in which Washington spent money and didn't spend it on building manufacturing or goods and services. They spent it on lining the pockets of activists and environmentalists. So we are in a serious situation, and Trump very well could enter the first quarter with an economic collapse that rivals the Great Depression. Oh, boy. Won't that be a scenario? Okay,
so I agree with you. They did not, they just gave everybody a bunch of checks, and everybody went, oh, I got $1,500 or whatever. And then inflation ate that up into like a week, because that's how much grocery prices and gas prices rose up. And they didn't build infrastructure like you said. So I agree with that. But do you also think it's possible that they would literally on purpose despicably cause the economy to crash if Trump wins, to discredit him and to get it to where the American people are already going, oh, I can't believe we put Trump in power, whatever? Do you think that they would actually intentionally cause the crash to happen?
No, and here's the reason why. It's kind of like, you're on the same plane when when Al Qaeda goes in the cockpit. I don't care if you're a Republican or a Democrat. Neither of you really want Al Qaeda in the cockpit. And so you've got the big money donors that are funding the left. None of them want to lose their net worth. None of them want to lose their estate. They don't want to have to sell off one of their houses in Europe. So you've got selfish interests. What they want to do is they want to keep the money supply endlessly churning out dollars as though there's no accountability for what happens. And they want to use the money supply to buy votes and to get the border open and to fund 20 million illegals coming in who will vote socialist in the future. They have a long-term selfish plan to live forever in luxury and privilege. They're not planning on suffering in order to take out their opposition. That's not in their playbook. I'm just saying, the donor money on the left and the Wall Street class is not interested in funding a collapse. It's what we're doing because we are not managing economics right, and we're spending without discipline. And it's a physics. It's the judgment of economics on us for our selfish and stupid spending. By the way, we could have been the world's dominant economic force for the next decade if we only had a balanced budget. But neither Republicans or Democrats will do that. And Trump himself presided over $8 trillion of additional debt because America is addicted to spending.
Okay, quickly, 2 last points, and this is it. I know you have to go. CrowdStrike, was that a practice run when they shut down, when the screens of death happened, when they did their quote update, and then the screens of death hit banks, planes, people were stuck at airports, flights were canceled, businesses went down, all that. Was that a dry run for a larger cyber attack? They claim it wasn't a cyber attack, but is it a dry run? And also, what are you doing to prepare for an economic crash, personally?
Yeah, okay, 2 things. First of all, and I always just listen. I know what my crowd wants to hear. They love the red meat of conspiratorial stuff, and it's all across the board. I got rich guys and uneducated people that all love that stuff. I'm going to tell you, CrowdStrike is an evil organization. They were behind the Perkins Coie conspiracy in order to get the fake dossier. They worked with Hillary Clinton with the Russia story. But the truth of the matter is, I believe that there are vulnerabilities within our own infrastructure digitally, and that they're exploited by foreign actors. And I think they just got pinged either by China, Russia, or Iran, or some sophisticated network that said that is working on what they could do with American infrastructure. But I don't think CrowdStrike did it to themselves any more than I think Democrats want a Great Depression, although they will exploit the news to make Trump look bad. And I recommend for people, I do lancewallnau.com/gold. And I do that because I've got like a 20-page, and I've had this for a year, a 20-page analysis of why the dollar is collapsing and how the silver is mine and the gold is mine. From, hey, guy, you have to park money in something that'll sustain its value. Don't put it in art coins. Don't put it in gold coins. Put it in actual gold by the ounce or silver by the ounce, because the silver and gold is the default currency for the 30 nations that are going to rise up when the dollar goes down. They all need something, and gold is the gold standard. So go to lancewallnau.com/gold, and you could read the 20-page report that I read on silver and gold and why the dollar is dying.
Lance Wallnau, thank you for joining us. You know that they said that Trump is going to put the American dollar back on the gold standard, but it will be gold, silver, platinum, and Bitcoin. Let's pray for that.
Bitcoin, I'll tell you what, man. You know what? I'm not always happy with my president there. I love Donald Trump. I mean, I love the guy totally, but he's picking on the guy, the president of El Salvador, and he's saying, hey, they're all, because he's just so competitive, and he can't believe that El Salvador actually is locking up their criminals and that they're doing a good job. But the El Salvador president is a Christian, and he's reversed the corruption in the country. And you know what he said? God told him to put the economy on Bitcoin.
Yes.
And he's the first global leader. And I believe this guy's heard God so far in everything. And that made me stop and say, re-examine our position on Bitcoin, people.
I have already been re-examining my position on Bitcoin for many years. You guys need to catch up.
Yeah. Mercedes is that way. She's been trying to educate me. Well, I talked to Jesse Duplantis. My generation, we like solid assets. It's like Jesse said, I like something I could bite into. I could bite into a gold coin. I can't bite into a digital. And so it's just old school thinking. But I think you're onto something, young lady.
Absolutely. We don't give financial advice, everybody, but just pray into it. Amen. Lance, you are awesome. Thank you so much for making last minute arrangements to come on the broadcast today. It's so well needed. We appreciate your wisdom.
Appreciate you so much, Katie. And by the way, I did predict J.D. Vance 21 days before Trump announced him, because I was getting frustrated. I wasn't hearing anything prophetic. And I said, Lord, how come you're not talking to me? And he right away said J.D. Vance. That's all I heard. And I knew immediately, oh my gosh, I just got a hot tip from heaven.
Okay, so is this God's man? I don't mean to keep on stretching this out, but is this God's man, and why?
I prophesied at 21 live on Flashpoint. That was the hilarious part. I didn't even do it on a podcast. I did it on TV with Flashpoint. The reason why is because J.D. Vance is the ideologic embodiment of the MAGA doctrine, which is the elites are the enemy of the people. And we've got to rise up in a populist movement on both parties, Republicans and Democrats, to recapture government that represents the best interest of us, the people, rather than the best interest of the ruling class. This is what Trump represents, and he put the baton in the hands of a new generation, not Rubio, not Tim Scott, but someone who grew up in poverty and who knows exactly the same story that Trump has, that the American people are suffering because the elites are gaming the system.
Amen to the MAGA support from J.D. Vance. Hallelujah. All right. Thank you, Lance. You're awesome. We'll have you back as we get closer to the time of the elections.
Praise the Lord. Love you guys.
Love you too.
Soon.
Did you enjoy this latest episode? Please remember to share it with your friends, because the more knowledge you have, the better equipped you are to navigate the world.